Hey friends, welcome back to Big Nate's Whiskey Lounge. I am Nate, thrilled to have you along for another whiskey video. Today we're going to do a Scotch, specifically an Islay Scotch, which I've mentioned is my favorite region of Islay. I love my smoky, peaty, band-aidy, malty, love my peated Islay Scotch. So this is going to be a Lagavulin. This is actually Lagavulin 9-year. This is actually the Game of Thrones Lagavulin. So I'm not going to do a Game of Thrones line. I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I'm not going to get into that. I've watched a couple of episodes, but I'm not getting into it. It's not going down a rabbit hole. This is the Game of Thrones. They do a bunch of scotches, and a lot of them are available to me. I had a buddy of mine who is he loves Lagavulin. He doesn't typically drink my whiskey all the time when I come in. Not a huge bourbon guy, things like that. When I go into the cigar lounge, he usually passes on everything I drink. But when I bring in Lagavulin, he drinks it. Now this will make my 5th Lagavulin that I own. I own 8 and now 9. I own Nick Offerman's 11 Guinness finished. I own a 15-year Distiller's Edition and the Classic 16. Now that same friend that I just mentioned, I was going to pass on this. I wasn't interested. I was like, because the 8 is just okay to me. And so I was like, I'm not going to get another one that's just 1 year different. Not a big deal to me. And he's like, no. He's like, just do it. It's a cheaper bottle, and it's worth the money. So I was at a store earlier today, and I was walking around, and they had several cases of this, and it was only $65. And just for reference, the Distiller's Edition cost me $120. Lagavulin is about a $1 to $110. The Offerman, I can get it for $83, but it's about a $100 bottle. And then the 8-year is like a $60 to $70. So I bought this for $65. The 9-year Game of Thrones edition, Lagavulin. And this Game of Thrones House Lannister. I know that you Game of Thrones nerds can please feel free to nerd out in the comments. So I'm just looking at it now. This is actually really, really good color for this young of an Islay. I do not believe the 8 is... Ooh, nice pop there. I do not believe the 8 is this dark, but this isn't finished. So now I'm not going to be able to give any notes in the glass. I am drinking from my brand new podcast, the all blacked out, really freaking awesome Glencairn. And now as I'm shooting this is going to be, today is March 13th. Depending on when I release this, this will be either the week after or I think it's the week after Whiskey Weekend Batch 4. So I hope I had an awesome time. I hope if you were with me, I hope that we enjoyed each other's company. And I believe these might be available, but I also mention it because just want to give T's and P's to Melissa. Not getting into details, not going to share. If you know Melissa, you'll know what I'm talking about. T's and P's, Melissa, and I'm sure I'll be able to say that to you at Whiskey Weekend. We love you. You are awesome. T's and P's. Which, thoughts and prayers. Oh, that's nice. I haven't had an Islay in a while. It's been a couple of weeks. Been doing mostly non-Islay stuff lately. I love Islay. This is a very, very nice classic peatiness. For those of you that don't like, now there are some whiskeys that I have in my collection and that are available that are slightly peated. So some of you guys that don't like peat can tolerate that. Some of you just can't, and that's totally fine. Like, if you don't like or can't handle peat, that's fine. Sometimes peats can be just overbearing and just really, really aggressive, and then just throw people off. But this is, for those of you that like peat, that like, Lafroig and Ardbeg and the classic Lagavulin 16, and this is going to be right up your alley. But there's a fruitiness to the whiskey that's interesting. Definitely a single malt. We got the classic funk. Ooh, what's the proof on this? 46, 92 proof. I've had a lot of 92 proof whiskeys tonight. I've had quite a bit of whiskey tonight. It might be affected in the last couple of videos. If the quality of me is not that great, I apologize. I usually am a little bit better about shooting things, but I was a little backed up. I'm shooting today on March 13th, and I only have a video for the 15th, so I had to shoot my my St. Patrick's Day video today, and then I was like, I'm going to be backed up and crunched for time for Whiskey Weekend, so I had to shoot some videos. Just been kind of going through a lot personally, and so I hadn't really been in the mood to shoot videos, so, but I just had to buckle down and get it done, so. Oh man, I love my Islay. But my buddy, oh, that's unique. That's interesting. I'll get to my note in a second. But the same buddy that really likes Islay, he's an older gentleman, and by older I mean I think he's retired, or he at least he's a successful man. So he's able to do trips quite a lot to Florida. A lot of the guys that hang out at the cigar lounge do, and he's one of them. And he mentioned to me that he can get this in Florida all the time, and he's like, hey, because it was the night that I brought in the 8. Like a couple weeks ago, I brought in the 16. He had some of the 16. I brought in the 8, and I was like, hey, it's Lagavulin, but it's only the 8, so I understand if you're not a fan. He's like, no, man, it's Lagavulin, I'll drink it. And he's like, have you had the 9? I was like, you know what, I wasn't going to pull the trigger on that because it's Game of Thrones. I didn't want to get into all the marketing. He's like, no. It holds up. It's really good. Yes, it's 9 years old. It's not the 16. But it's really good. And he's like, it's better than the 8. He's absolutely right. This is a lot better than the 8. There's a richness to it. Not necessarily a meatiness. Ardbeg is meaty. And then Lafroy comes up a little bit. Not as meaty, a little more light, citrusy, fruity. And then Lagavulin is that. So this is right down the Lagavulin home plate. Nice and citrusy and refreshing, which is really odd. A lot of people that can't get through peat just can't get over the smoke. I totally get that. But if you're able to, you'll get to understand that an Islay Scotch or peated Scotch is very layered. So the peat is just one layer of that. And as a person who likes Scotch, I can actually physically ignore peat. If I'm trying to get notes, I can ignore the peat and separate it out both mentally and physically in my mouth, and I can get different layers and different notes. And this is citrusy, like a lemony orange, which I mentioned on the last video, I think. So maybe my palate's broken. Oh man. So I want to give shout out to my buddy who gave me that suggestion for the 9. And I'll definitely let him know when I see him next. I usually only go to the cigar lounge on Saturday and sometimes on Sunday. So I did see him yesterday when I'm shooting this video, but I bought this today, so I won't see him for another few days. I'll mention to him that I found it. Maybe he'll want to go pick some up because he was going to actually buy, next time he was in Florida, he was going to snag a bottle for me. Now I'll have to tell him he doesn't have to because I have a bottle, and even if it's gone, I'll milk this thing. But he might want to get some for himself, and that store had, I believe they had like 9 different bottles from the Game of Thrones series of different scotches, but they had a whole bunch in one shelf, and then like right next to it they had like 3 cases of this. The other ones were just what was on the shelf, and it was a smaller shelf, so maybe 2, maybe 3 of each one, and then they had like 3 cases of this. Yeah, the smoke is not as heavy. And it does taste a little younger. But it's more complex than the 8. And it's got more color. I like that. A lot more color than the 8. Really, really good. So, full transparency, while I'm saying it is really good, of the 5, so again, I have 8, 9, 11 Nick Offerman Guinness, 15-year Distiller's Edition, and the 16. This is number 4. So I still have Nick Offerman 11 is my favorite, then 16, then the 15 Distiller's Edition, then the 9, then the 8. So it is ranked 4 out of 5 for me. But it is still a really, really, really good Islay Scotch whiskey. I've rambled on for too long. I understand that my analytics from this are probably going to show that people dipped out pretty quickly. That's all right. I love you guys. I hope that I was able to express that love to some of you guys at Whiskey Weekend. I hope to see you next year at Whiskey Weekend. You'll be seeing whatever content I'm able to get there. I'm going to reach out to Will and Grease to just ask them what I can do. I want to be respectful to those guys because they're going to have a ton of content. There's also channels there that are kind of authorized, I would say, to be there, like as channels. Now, Will and Grease know I exist as a channel, but I'm just not going to do. I do intend to have some type of a content video come out from that, but I want to be respectful to them and what they desire. So we'll see when that comes out. We'll see what it actually entails. But I love you guys. Thanks so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Please do hit the thumbs up. I feel like right now that would be probably the most beneficial thing to me to get my views. And then tell me if you like Islay Scotch, what Islay Scotches you like, what you want to try. And love you guys. Cheers.